We left off in the very bottom of Ayin Tes Amid Aleph. We've been discussing Machlokas Rab and Shmuel, where it's the last day of the 6-month period between Naris and Bagrus. 12 years, 6 months, and a day. The girl was definitely a Bogeris. The last day of the 6-month period, that is the transitional day. At the end of the day, she was a Bogeris, but we're not sure what she was at the beginning of that day. The father married her off in the morning. She married herself off later in the day. If she was a Bogeris in the morning, the father's marriage is not a marriage. And if she was not a Bogeris in the morning, so her marriage later in the day is not a marriage because the father already married her off as a Nara. And there's no way to determine what she was in the morning. There's no way to determine this. So Rav says she's a Bogeris now. At the end of the day before sundown, the presumption is she was a Bogeris in the morning. Therefore, the father's act is not an act of marriage. Shmuel says it's not resolved. She may have been, she have not been. So we don't know whose marriage is a marriage. Therefore, she's suffering with Kodeshes. We don't know who she's married to. Is she married to the one who the father married off to? Is she married to the one she married herself off to? That's the Machlokes Rab and Shmuel. So now the Gemara says, Neighbor Ketanoi. It seems to be a Machlokes Tanoim. What's the case? Now, under normal circumstances, a person, when he writes away all his assets, you don't give them away to one person. Gift all your assets away. You don't. You may sell your assets, but to gift them, you don't. And a person writes a document, gifting is all his assets to a third party. And let's say he's on his deathbed, what we call a shchiv meira. He's on his deathbed. And then we know he's a shchiv meira when he wrote it, and he recovers. We could say with certainty that the only reason why he wrote away his assets, he even gave the document to the person, was he believed he would die. Although he didn't write a condition that the transfer of assets is conditional on his dying, we could say with certainty the only reason why he wrote all his assets to this one individual because he believed he would die. So now that he recovers, right? So then we say the transfer is not a transfer. It was a conditional transfer, believing that he would die. But what about we have a situation where a man today he's healthy, and he claims that when he gave the man the document, he was a shchiv meira. That's what he claims. And the recipient says, it's not true. You were never on your deathbed. You wrote over all your assets. You were a healthy person. So if there's no condition in the document, then it's a transfer. So there's an argument. The recipient says you were not a shchiv meira, you were not on your deathbed, and the gifter says I was on my deathbed. And today the gifter is a healthy person. Now, who has to bring the proof? The burden proof on the recipient, or the burden proof is on the gifter? Well, wait a second. We'll see in a moment. We had a Gemara. The Gemara says in the Ksubis, there was a person's name was Parshatcha. He was referred to as Parshatcha. He was an unstable person. The Gemara says, Itim cholim, itim shoter. He had some kind of balance. Sometimes he was competent. There were times when he had his certain moments he was incompetent. And he went and he sold a piece of property, or gifted a piece of property. And later he claims that when he sold the property, he was unstable. Therefore, the sale was not a sale. That's what he claims. And the recipient brings two witnesses who testify he was fully competent when he transferred the transaction took place. The seller, the gifter says, brings two witnesses, no, he was having his moment at that moment. Just a tray. So the Gemara says that since there's a cheskes morikama, since we're not sure whether the transfer was valid or not valid, so what do? You go after presumed status. Initially, who did the property belong to? Belong to this individual. The question is, did it ever leave his domain? Was it ever transferred out? Since there's no way to resolve it, we follow chazaka. It's called cheskes morikama, to presumably belongs to the original owner. Until we know that it left his domain, it remains in his domain. That's the Gemara, and that's the way we rule. So here we have a situation. We have a question. Was he a bori? Was he fully healthy when he signed over, when he transferred all his assets to this one individual? Or was he a shchimera? Although normally a person does not. A healthy person doesn't gift all his assets away. So the question is, does that weaken the cheskes marikama? So it's not so simple here. Meaning, the nature of the transfer indicates that he was a shchimera, right? That seemingly that's what you would say, because a person normally doesn't do this kind of thing. No person doesn't transfer it. So if that would be the case, even though presently he's a bori, I would say, you know something, this would actually say that even though there's a question, he may have been a bori, but since the bori, a healthy person, doesn't behave this way, he must have been a shchimera. Besides having the cheskes marikama, besides having the original presumed status. Okay? We'll see exactly how you deal with this particular situation. It belonged to the ban. To this individual claims that it still is, that he only gifted it because he was on his deathbed. Right? That's what he's claiming. Mi motzi miad mi. Who extracts it from who? Who motzi miyodam? Here? Even if they already took possession. Today, he's a bori. He's a healthy person. And they already took possession of the property. Or the properties. He's able to extract it from them. Below raya. Without bringing any proof that he was, that at the time that he was on his deathbed, that he was a shchimera. Ve'ein ein motzi miyodo. Below raya. Divrei Rabbi Yaakov. But unless they bring uncontestable proof that he was a bori, it remains with him. That's Rabbi Yaakov. Correct? Even though, no, it's only because, it is because. Rabbi Yaakov is on pin because of the nature of the transfer, which only a shchimera does. Therefore, that immediately alerts us to say that this was a matna shchimera. It was the gift by a person on his deathbed. No, it's even more so. You have a suffix. Right? Normally, if I have a document not indicating anything, I have the document. You have to bring proof. There's not even a question. The only reason why there is a question is because a person doesn't normally do this kind of transaction. That's why there's a question. Reb Nosson Omer in Borihu Olav Lavi Raya. Let's say today the gifter is a healthy person, and he claims when he transferred it, he was a shchimera. You say you go after the present status. Today you're a bori. The presumption was when you transferred the asset, you were also a bori. You were a healthy person. You were not on your deathbed. So if that's the case, there's no reason. And since you didn't, there wasn't a conditional transfer, therefore it remains with the one who has it. And even if he hasn't taken it, possession, he has a right to take it. He has a document. The person who wants to take possession or has possession, he has a document that was transferred to him. The question, what is the nature of the transfer? Okay? So Reb Nosson says, in Borihu Olav Lavi Raya, Shchimera. If today the gifter is a healthy person, he has to prove that at the time that he had written the document and given to him, that he was a shchimera, he was on his deathbed. Nope. No. There is a document. But there's no indication in the document what his state of health was when he wrote that document. Whether he was on his deathbed or he was a healthy person. Sometimes he does. Sometimes the person does. We'll see in a moment what the argument is. Factually, today you're healthy, the presumption is you were always healthy. Everything was signed. Not unstable. He was on his deathbed. Okay? This was a regular document written. Okay? What about presently? He's a person who's deathly ill. So then the burden of proof is on the ones who claim that he was a bori, that he was healthy when he gave him the document. You follow the present. If today he's healthy, the presumption is when he gave the gift he was healthy. Today he's on his deathbed. Presumption is when he gave the document, he was on his deathbed. Going back many years ago, it's not a question. It must be within a reasonable amount of time that as he's on his deathbed today, he was on his deathbed then. Okay? So it seems to be that what? That this is the argument of Rav and Shmuel. Rav says if at the end of the day she's a Bulgaris, we have a question, what was she in the morning? Was she a Nara or not? It's possible she was a Nara. So if that she was a Nara, she wasn't fully mature. The father's marriage is a marriage. Yet Rav says everything's determined by the present. She's a Nara, she's a Bulgaris now. She was a Bulgaris in the morning. Similar, he's a Bari now. The presumption is when he gave the gift, he was a Bari, according to Reb Nosson. If he's a Shchimera now, the presumption is when the gift was given, he was a Shchimera. You go after the present. The present determines what the state was prior. Rav Omer Reb Nosson, Shmuel de Omer Reb Yaakov. Right? Shmuel says no. You go after Chazokah. Rav, what was she initially? She was a Nara. I mean, although there's a differentiation over here, right? Because Shmuel still says it's a Sophic. Right? Regarding our situation, he says, we're not sure. Right? Here, he says, no. You definitely, the burden of proof is, according to Reb Yaakov, is on the ones who want to extract the money. Meaning the ones who receive the document. You go after Morikama. Right? But, so, I mean, what does this have to do with Shmuel? No. No. Seems there's nothing Shmuel. See, you should say she's definitely married to the one who the father married her off to. Right? Here we're saying, Rav Yaakov says the property has to be returned to the original owner. Definitely. Correct? It's not a suffix. It's a suffix. Chazaka rules, it returns to the original owner. That's Rav Yaakov here. Correct? That's what he says. We're saying, Gemara says, and Shmuel holds like follows the position of Rav Yaakov. What did he do? Again, if we're going after the chazaka, right? So the father's marriage should be a marriage, and this daughter's marriage should not be a marriage, right? Shmuel says it's a suffix. So what is the? So that means he's not going like Rabbi Yaakov. Is he going like Rabbi Yaakov? He's not going like Rabbi Yaakov. The Gemara says Shmuel is going like Rabbi Yaakov. So how is he going like Rabbi Yaakov? That's the question. The answer is very simple. What was the machlokes of Rav and Shmuel regarding the situation of the woman who was a Nara and the transitional day she became a Bulgaris? Everybody agrees. Normally, whenever you have a chazokah dahashta, chazokah meikora, you always give the chazokah meikora. Right? We said that. But this chazokah meikora is a weakened chazokah meikora. Why? Because it's transitional. So it has the equivalent status as the present. That's why it's a suffix. The chazokah we're dealing with here is a solid chazokah. Definitely is without a question before it was transferred, it belonged to the gifter. But we see clearly, even though you have it presently, you see he's healthy. It's irrelevant what he's presently healthy. You still go after the Morikama. As long as there's a possibility that he was a Shchiv Meirav, it's returned to the original person, because the original chazak is not weakened. But you see clearly, according to Rabbi Yaakov, the present does not determine. According to Reb Nosson, the present does determine. I mean, so now you have to understand. Let's talk about Rav. I mean, how do we understand Reb Nosson? You have a chazaka dahashto and you have a chazaka meikora. So if you have chazaka dahashto and chazaka meikora, so why doesn't Reb Nosson agree that it reverts back to the original owner? The answer is because it's not even a question. It's barely a question, right? Today he says, if he's at Bori today, with the presumption he was always healthy. What about Chazuk Meikora? You have to have a question. If it's a legitimate question, like the case of Barshachi, you have two witnesses saying he was stable. At time transaction, two witnesses say he was not stable. So this is a legitimate. So we have an irresolvable question. So what's irresolvable? You go after the presumed status, what originally, who did it belong to. But in our situation over here, why should I even entertain the man who was on his deathbed? The answer is because a person normally doesn't do that. But that's not sufficient to create a question in our minds. So if it's not sufficient, there's no reason to go back to the original status. So what I say, today he's healthy, the presumption he was always healthy. When he gifted, he was healthy. That's the position of Rav Nosson. But the chazaka never comes into play because the suffix is not a sufficient suffix. Okay, let's see it inside. So the Gemara wants to say that Rav is following Rav Nosson, Shmuel is following Rav Yaakov. So Gemara says no. Amalach Rav. Rav says, Ano de Amri Afilu Rav Yaakov. Rav says, although in regard to the Bogeris, I say, as she's a Bogeris today, she was a Bogeris in the morning. Now, how do we explain Rav? Rav says a transitional chazaka is not a chazaka. So it's not even, so therefore we can't pit the morning against the present. Remember, that's how we explained Rav. So if that's the case, all I have to go in is in the present. So if all you have to go is in the present, she's a Bogeris now, so she was a Bogeris this morning. So if that's the case, her marriage is a marriage, the father's marriage was not a marriage. Okay? Over there, what does Rabbi Yaakov say that it reverts back to the original person? Because there I have a bona fide chazaka. I have a bona fide chazaka meikora, cheskes marikama. There's no, without a question, who was the original owner of this property? The man who gifted it. So we have a question, there's a chance he may have been a shchiv meira. Because we see a person normally doesn't gift everything away. So if that's the case, of course, you follow chazaka. Even if they took possession, you take it from them and return it to the original owner. But Rav says, but here you can't say, follow the presumed status of physicality. Because since it's the day of transition, that chazaka has no value. So if that chazaka has no value, what do I have to go on? Only the present. So as she's a Bogeres at the end of the day, the presumption is she was a Bogeres at the beginning of the day. And therefore the father's marriage is not a marriage, and her marriage is a marriage. No, they're not comparable. The two cases, that's exactly what Rav is saying. Rav is saying the two cases are not comparable, one to another. We don't want to. We wanted to say, it seems to be the argument in this of Tanoim is the same argument Rav and Shmuel. So Rav says, no, this argument has no relevance. I could hold like either one. Yeah, but there doesn't have to be a change. There doesn't have to be a change. Here, there definitely will be a change. Yeah, okay, good. Shmuel, now, how could Shmuel hold like Reb Nosson? Shmuel says, by us, it's a suffix. Shmuel, Anodi Amri Afilu Reb Nosson. He says, I could concur even with Reb Nosson. Reb Nosson says that whatever he is today, the presumption he was that before. Very simple. Because Shmuel's going to say, you need a question to follow chazaka. If the suffix, if the man is healthy today, why should I ever consider that he was on his deathbed? Most people are healthy. A healthy person, do we say, well, there was a time in the past he was on his deathbed? There's no such thing. Therefore, it's not even a consideration. So I say, look, he's healthy today. The presumption he was always healthy. He's deathly ill today. So good, so I have what to go on. I see he's deathly ill. The presumption is he was deathly ill earlier. We have no witness. We say Amos Kavel Raya. We say that you have to bring witnesses. Wait 1 second. The presumption is most people are healthy. So if today he's healthy, the presumption he was always healthy. So when the gift was written, what was his state of health? He was a healthy person. So if that's the case, it's a valid transfer. So therefore, so who's going to remove him from that presumptive status that he was always a healthy person? So therefore we say it's a bona fide transfer until the other person proves differently, that he was on his deathbed. Right? But over here, factually, she was a Nara the day before, and there's a possibility, we know it's a transitional day, so if that's the case, there's a question, was she still the Nara? So I'm pitting one chazok against another. And since the original chazaka doesn't have any greater strength than the present chazaka, so what is it? It's the irresolvable suffix. Irresolvable suffix, therefore she's suffering kudeshes. This is what Shmuel was saying. No, then we say, no, then it would be a question. Then it's not so simple. Shmuel, what Shmuel is saying. Because he says, the only reason is because most people are healthy. Why should I even consider he was ever deathly ill? But if not for that, it's what you're saying, that he's bringing the proof. The original person's bringing proof there. Right? Right. No, then we have Morikama to go after. Now that I have a question, now I can talk about Morikama. I can talk about the original, I can speak about the original Chazaka. Once I create a bona fide suffix, now I have to resolve it. No. He was deathly ill 2 months ago. Presently, but the document was 3 weeks later. And today he's fully recovered. Right? So I have a suffix. When you have a suffix, what do? You go after Morikama. You go after the original status. Originally it belonged to what? It belonged to the gifter. So it goes back to the gifter. This one document transferred all the assets. To have a suffix. Did he gift it when he was a shivmei or not? And that question is a question. Once it's a question and it's not resolvable, you go after chazaka. What is the chazaka? Originally, who owned the property? The original owner? It reverts back to the original owner. The witness is not here. The witness is not here. It's his word against their word. It's the recipient and it's the gifter. These are the only two parties we're dealing with. We don't have witnesses who were there at the time. First, look, the witness, we only have the document. That's all we have. And from document, there's no indication either way. There's only reason to consider it maybe because a person normally would not gift all his assets. That's the only reason. Okay? Okay, so we say this machlokes tanoim has no relevance to Rabbi Shmuel. Name of Kani Torah. Now, the next brisa we're quoting now seems to be verbatim the machlokes from Rabbi Shmuel. The exact same case. What's the case? Kitcho via bederech. The father was traveling, and he married off bederech when he was out of town. The kitcha atzum be'ir. And the same day, she married herself where she was in her community. Now the question is, when the father married her, what was she at that time? Presently, she's a bogeris. Very bogeris. And presently, she's a bogeris. She's a fully mature woman. Tana Chado, we learned in one brisa, Hari bogeris lefonenu. One brisa says she's a bogeris now. The presumption was, when the father married her off, she was a bogeris. Therefore, the father's marriage is not a marriage. That's one brisa. For Tanya Idoch, I have another brisa that says, no, chashin l'kedusha shneim. I have to take in consideration the father's kiddushin. Therefore, it's a suffix. She's suffering kudeshes. So seemingly, this is literally exactly the argument of Rav and Shmuel. It's clear. Machlokes Rav and Shmuel. My love, chad kirav, chad kishmuel. The machlokes Rav and Shmuel is machlokes tanoim. Lo. Idi vidi kishmuel. I can tell you they're both going like Shmuel. How could it go like Shmuel? Shmuel just said, now in that identical situation, it's a suffix. Yet it says no. Both brises could go like Shmuel. That in one situation, she's definitely married only to the person she accepted the kiddushin from. And the father's is not. Kan b'makroshosa, kan shei makroshosa. The father married her off because he claimed she was a nara. She says, father, you made a mistake. I was a bogeris at the time. So she's contradicting what he's saying. He doesn't know what her situation is. He's presuming she's a nara. She says, I wasn't a nara. I was already a bogeris in the morning. She's telling us I was a bogeris in the morning. The father doesn't know. The father only married because he believed she's still a nara. Why don't you believe her? Why shouldn't she believe? This would be Eirech Adem Bisurim. This would be Eirech Adem Bisurim. Yeah, Eirech Adem Bisurim. She's believed. It's not she's counting. The father does know fact. She doesn't know what she was. He presumed she was a nara. She's saying, no, father, you made a mistake. I'm telling you, I was a Bulgaris in the morning. So if I was a Bulgaris in the morning, your marriage is not a marriage. Maybe a person is saying when he tells you the meat is kosher because he wants you to eat the kosher, the meat, even though it's not kosher. Person is cheskes kashrus. There's no question. We're not questioning her integrity. She has integrity. She has a cheskes kashrus. So what? So what? She married herself off. Our question is what she was originally. What she was originally. It's not a father says, I know you were a nara. If the father says, I know you were a nara, she says, I was a Bulgaris, that would be a problem. Father doesn't know factually what her physical condition is. He only assumed she was because he didn't think differently. But again, it's no. It's not. See, it's not a davar shebe'erva here because the davar shebe'erva is contingent on her physical status. To say I'm married, I'm not married, that you're not believed. But to say married or not married is dependent on a physical fact that she's believed over here. Okay, we have 2 minutes. So now the Gemara asks an interesting question. We have a machlokes from Rav and Shmuel. The presumption is they're arguing. So the Gemara now says maybe they're not arguing. Maybe Rav and Shmuel were speaking about 2 different cases. The case of Rav is speaking where Rav says you only follow, say, the second marriage is marriage. That's where she contradicts the father. That's the reason. And Shmuel speaking where she's not countering the father. She's saying, really, in the morning, I'm not sure what I was. I didn't check myself in the morning. So therefore, there's no machlokes Rav and Shmuel. Just as we're reconciling the 2 brises saying there's no argument, we're saying that both of them could possibly follow Shmuel. Maybe Rav is speaking in the situation where she's countering the father. She's telling the father, I know factually in the morning I was fully mature, therefore your marriage is not a marriage. And the other case, she says, I'm not sure. So if I'm not sure, okay, so then we have we're in this flux, this question. Is she not? So it's something Kudeshes. Here. We hear an argument. Rav says one, seems they're arguing. Maybe they're not arguing. As we reconcile the brisa by saying there is no argument, maybe Rav is speaking in one context, Shmuel is speaking in another context. There's no argument. So Morris is going to prove no, there is an argument. Just as the brises are not arguing, maybe the Amoram are not arguing. To be continued.